Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sireesha, and today we're going to do a post-run or walk yoga flow. Now you don't need to have gone for a walk or a run to be able to do this yoga sequence, but it is targeted to the lower body and to stretch out the leg muscles and the hips in particular. You won't really need anything for this practice, but if you've got really tight hamstrings, I would recommend grabbing a block or two books of equal thickness that you can use to help bring the mat closer to your hands as we move through our flow. So let's go ahead and get started. So assuming that you've just finished your run or your walk, we're going to go ahead and get started in a child's pose. So you'll bring your big toes together to touch, slight gap between your knees as far apart as you'd like or as close in as you'd like. This is your practice and your moment of pause. So listening to your body and placing your knees where it makes sense for you. Walk your hands forward and allow your forehead to rest down onto the mat. Take a deep inhale through your nose and exhale it out through your mouth. And just using this child's pose here as a moment to transition. Perhaps your heart rate is a little elevated still from your walk or your run. Perhaps you're still feeling a little bit of heat from that cardio work. And using this child's pose here to give yourself permission to leave that work behind, to acknowledge the strength and the work that you put in, and to give yourself permission to cool down now, to stretch and breathe and slow down. Take one more round of breath here. And then we'll slowly press up to hands and knees, taking your time with the transition. And on an inhale, we'll send the gaze and the tail up toward the ceiling. As you exhale, round through your spine, gaze towards your navel. Inhale to take your gaze up toward the ceiling. Exhale, round through your spine, gaze at your navel. Continue this for 3 more rounds of breath, noticing how your spine is feeling, noticing the sensations in the body elsewhere, and then we'll come back to that neutral spine. We'll press down into the left palm, and on an inhale, sweep that right hand up toward the ceiling. As you exhale, thread it through right shoulder and right ear are going to come down towards the ground. Now you can choose to keep that left hand underneath your shoulder, or you can start to walk that left hand towards the top edge of your mat. You can press into that left hand wherever it is to start to open your torso out towards the left. And sometimes when we run or when we walk, there can be some tension that builds up in the upper body. And so in this pose, we're just kind of twisting it out, releasing any shoulder tension, any spinal tension. And if you walked your left hand forward, bring it back underneath your shoulder, press down into your left palm. Inhale, sweep your right hand up toward the ceiling. Exhale, bring your right hand down to the mat. Press down into your left palm. Inhale, sweep your left hand up toward the ceiling. As you exhale, thread it through left shoulder, left ear comes down toward the mat. And you can keep that right hand planted here, or you can start to walk your right hand forward towards the top edge of your mat. Pressing into the mat here so that you can open your torso towards the right hand side. Breathing here, releasing any tension in the shoulders, inviting a sense of softness to come in. If you walked your right hand forward, slowly bring it underneath your shoulder. Press into your right hand. Inhale, sweep your left hand up toward the ceiling. Exhale, bring your left hand down to plant. And we'll recenter and reset. Your wrists underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. Send your right toes to the back of your mat. And maybe they come off your mat, and we're going to start to track that right heel down towards the ground, stretching into the calf muscle, tracking the right heel down towards the ground until you start to feel sensations turn on in your calf muscle. Draw your navel in and send your breath to your calves. Take one inhale here. Full exhale here. On an inhale, sweep your right leg up off of the ground. Flex your right toes towards your shin. As you exhale, draw your right knee in towards your nose. Inhale, send your right leg back behind you. 2 more times like this. Exhale, draw your right knee in towards your nose. Inhale to send your right leg back behind you. Last one. And we'll keep that right leg back behind you, and you'll just roll your ankle here. Point and flex the toes, bringing some movement into that ankle joint. And you might roll your ankle in the opposite direction now. And then we're going to step that right foot up in between your hands, finding your lunge. And notice here how your hips are feeling. And on an inhale, we're going to start to come up for our Anjaneyasana or low lunge. And you can pause for a moment, hands on the top of your thigh. And then we're going to heel toe the right toes forward here so that you can send your hips towards the top edge of your mat. Make sure your right knee is stacked on top of your right ankle. And you can choose to stay here, just breathing into the sensations of hip stretch, especially along the front of that left hip. Or you can start to add your arms, reaching your arms up toward the ceiling. Notice where your shoulders are in space. Relax your shoulders down away from your ear. Draw your navel in. Take an inhale here. Full exhale here. Press into your feet, into your left knee. As you exhale, bring your hands down to your mat. And we're going to turn this into a half splits pose or an Ardha Hanumanasana. You'll walk your hands back to that left knee. And you'll flex your right toes towards your shin. Maybe even scooching your right heel forward towards the top edge of your mat. Bring a gentle micro bend to that right knee here. And think about drawing your left hip forward and your right hip back. Tenting up onto the fingertips if you need space, maybe grabbing something to place underneath your hands if you need a little more room. Breathing into the back of your right leg here. All of the muscles that live here, sending some breath to them, some fresh oxygen to those muscle groups. Take one more inhale here. Full exhale here. And we'll slowly re-bend that front knee, walking the hands forward. Bring your right knee back in line with your left. And we'll come to the second side. So realign here, wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips, and send your left toes to the back of your space. Left toes stay on the ground or the mat, and you're going to start to send your left heel down towards the ground until you feel your calf muscles turn on. Draw your navel in so that there is still some protective core engagement for your low back. And keep sending your left heel towards the ground until you start to feel sensations in your calf muscle, a sense of stretch in that part of your leg. Take an inhale here. Full exhale here. Press down into your palms. Lift your left toes off the mat. And as you exhale, draw your left knee in towards your nose, around through your spine. Inhale, send your left leg back behind you. 2 more times like this. Exhale, draw your knee in towards your nose. Inhale, left leg goes back. Last one. Exhale, draw your knee in towards your nose. Send your left leg back behind you. And we'll point and flex the toes. We'll roll the ankle in one direction and then the other. Just bringing some blood flow to that ankle. And then we'll step that left foot up in between your hands. Noticing how the hips feel on this side. We're going to start to come up for our low lunge pose. And you can start to heel toe those left toes towards the top edge of your mat so that you can send your hips forward. Make sure that left knee is stacked on top of your left ankle. Take a moment here to notice your foundation. Press into your left foot, press into your right leg. Draw your navel in, draw strength from the ground below you. Find length and maybe send your hands up toward the ceiling. Soften your shoulders down away from your ears. Firm up through your core here. Breathing here. Notice how this right hip feels. Start to notice the sensation in the front of your right hip crease And if you don't feel much, maybe think about sending your hips forward towards the top edge of your mat a little bit more. Take an inhale here. Exhale, bring your hands down to your mat, and we'll turn this into our half splits pose. So walking the hands back to that right knee. Start to come on to that left heel. Flex your left toes towards your shin. Maybe scoot your left heel forward towards the top edge of your mat to find a little more space, a little more length in that left side body, that left leg. Tent up onto your fingertips. Think about drawing right hip forward, left hip back. Micro bend into that left knee and breathe into the back of your left leg. Sending fresh oxygen to all of the muscles that live in the back of your left leg that worked so hard to help you walk and or run. Take one more inhale here. Full exhale here. And we'll re-bend that front knee. Send that left knee back to meet your left. And then we're going to tuck the toes here and start to walk the hands back towards the knees, sinking your seat down to your heels. Now you can keep your hands on the mat here, full palms down or on your fingertip. It's all about how much weight you'd like to bring into your feet. So we're stretching out the soles of the feet here, and it can be a lot. And so you can really bring the weight into your feet completely by bringing your hands onto the tops of your thighs, or you can lessen some of that work, keeping your palms down on the ground. So listening to where your feet are today, you might try it out on both sides, both ways, before picking the stance that makes sense for you. And sending your breath to the soles of your feet. Maybe saying a silent thank you here to your feet for moving you through the world, for connecting you to the ground, for helping you balance and walk and run. We're going to take 2 more rounds of breath here, knowing that you can bring your hands down at any point in time if you lifted them up. And then we'll walk back out to our hands and knees. We'll flip onto the tops of the feet, and we'll just kind of hammer it out here, slapping the tops of your feet down onto the ground and doing some of that stretch. Good. From here, we're going to find our first downward facing dog. So you can walk your hands forward, tuck your toes, and send your hips up and back. And you might pedal it out here, bending one knee and then the other, nodding the head yes, shaking the head no. Bringing a sense of stretch to your right leg by bending into your left knee and sending your gaze underneath your right armpit, tracking your right heel towards the ground. And then we'll switch sides. So we'll bend that right knee, track the left heel towards the ground, shift your gaze underneath that left armpit. One more time like that on each side. Bend that left knee, straighten through your right leg, gaze under right armpit. Inhale to lengthen both legs out. Exhale to send that left heel down. Bend that right knee, gaze under your left armpit. And then we'll come onto the toes, high onto the toes. Exhale, bend your knees and send your seat back behind you. Shift your gaze forward. Walk your feet forward to meet your hands. And we'll pause here in our forward fold, bending your knees a little or a lot here, grabbing hold of opposite elbows. Allow your head to feel heavy here. Again, breathing into the back body. Take one more inhale here. Full exhale here. And we'll slowly release the hands. Inhale to lift up halfway, long spine. Shoulders draw down away from your ears. Exhale to fold. Plant your hands and step back to your downward facing dog. Now we're going to shorten our downward facing dog a little bit here. So you'll walk your hands back, you'll bend your knees and root down into your left hand. Send your right hand to the outer calf, the outer ankle on your left leg, and send your gaze underneath your armpit again. Draw your navel in. Think about sending your seat high up toward the ceiling. And then we'll switch it out. Bring that right hand down to the mat. Bend your knees a little or a lot here. Bring your left hand to the outside of your right leg. Gaze underneath that right armpit. Send your seat high up toward the ceiling here. Take an inhale here. Full exhale here. And then we'll bring that left hand down to the mat. Walk your hands forward again. We'll bring that right foot up in between your hands to find your low lunge here. And you might notice what it feels like to bring a little bit of movement into this pose. Maybe straightening through that front leg, bowing the forehead towards the knee, and then coming back to your low lunge. And we're going to walk that left foot up, halfway up the mat, and bring the toes at a 45-degree angle to the top left corner of your mat. And so you're setting up for your pyramid pose here. And you can keep your hands on the mat, maybe grab something to bring underneath your hands if you need more space. And we'll start to track that right hip back, left hip forward, and allow the forehead to bow down towards your right knee. Breathing again into the back of your right leg. Take an inhale here. Full exhale here. And we'll rebend into that front knee. Send your left toes to the back of your space, finding your low lunge pose here. Bring your bottom knee down to the mat. And we'll send that right knee back to meet your left, finding a child's pose again. Take 2 rounds of breath here. Good. We'll come back to our downward facing dog again to get into pyramid pose on the second side. So we'll send that left foot forward, finding your low lunge. And you might find some of that movement here again, just noticing what it feels like to straighten your front leg and rebend your front knee. Straighten and rebend. And then we'll walk the right foot up about halfway up your mat, turning your right toes at a 45-degree angle. Track your right hip forward, left hip back, coming into your pyramid pose. Hands can stay on the mat. On an inhale, we're going to lift up halfway, think long spine. Exhale, fold it forward any amount. Breathing into the back of your left knee, forehead towards your left knee. Again, right hip forward, left hip back. Take one more inhale here. Full exhale here. And then we'll rebend that front knee. Plant your right toes to the back of your space, finding your low lunge. Bring your right knee down, untuck your toes. Send your left knee back to meet your right. We'll bring the hands underneath the wrists underneath the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips. Send your right foot back behind you. Bend your right knee here, like you're going to kick your right seat. So we're stretching into the quads here. You're drawing your core in. Breathing here for 3, for 2, last one. Straighten your right leg out long and step your right foot up in between your hands. Heel toe your right foot toward the edge of your mat and bring your right hand on the inside of your right foot, coming into your lizard pose. You might walk your left knee back a little bit, taking up space here. You can stay up high on your hands, perhaps come down low onto your forearms. Thanking your hips for being as open as they are right now in this moment, sending your breath to all the parts of your body that you might be feeling sensations. Coming back to deep, full inhales and deep, full exhales. If you're on your forearms, slowly press back up to your palms. And we'll all come back to the hands and knees pose. So sliding that right foot back, the right knee returns down to the mat. Wrists underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. Send your left leg back behind you and bend your left knee like you're going to kick your left seat with your left heel. Stretching into that quad there, the top of your left thigh. Breathing here for 3. Pressing your spine up to the ceiling as you kick that left heel towards your seat here for 2. Last one. Straighten out your left leg and step your left foot up in between your hands. We'll bring the left hand on the inside of the left foot, heel toe your left foot to the edge of your mat, setting up for lizard pose on this side. You might walk that right knee back a little bit in space, take up room here on your mat. Staying up high on your palms or coming down to your forearms if you've got the space. Drawing your navel in to protect your low back and thanking your hips for being as open as they are right now in this moment. take 3 rounds of slow, deep breath here. Allowing the body to soften in this pose, allowing the mind to soften as well. If you're on your forearms, slowly press back up to your palms. We'll recenter. You might walk your hands back a little bit. Send your right knee back, your left knee back to meet your right knee. Sit onto your hips, and you can shake out your wrists here. Releasing any tension that might have built up, maybe cracking the fingers. And we'll just come to lay down on the back. And so we've spent our practice stretching things out, trying to cool down from our walk or our run, from that cardio exertion. And now we're really going to cool things down and bring the heart rate to a very neutral place. So we'll cross the right ankle at the left knee, and we'll turn this into a reclined pigeon pose. So you can choose to stay here, flexing your right toes towards your shin, or you can start to draw your legs towards your body, grabbing the back of your right thigh. If you're looking for more, the back of your left thigh, excuse me. If you're looking for more sensation, you might grab the top of your left shin. And then you might press your right elbow into your right thigh here so that you can create a sense of stretch as you press your elbow into your thigh and firm up your thigh against your elbow, breathing into the sensations in that outer right hip. You might roll that left ankle, point and flex the left toes. Take one more inhale here. Full exhale here. And we'll slowly release that work. Keeping the right ankle at the left knee, we're going to turn this into a twist, allowing the legs to knock over towards the left. Your right heel and foot will come down to the ground. You can take up space here, opening your arms out into a T shape or cactusing them, bending at the elbows. Allowing something to soften even further. Take one more round of breath here. And then we'll come back through center and switch out the cross. Press down into your feet, reset your low back to neutral, and then cross your left ankle at your right knee. Flex your left toes towards your shin. Stay here, or for more, draw your legs towards your upper body, grabbing at the back of your right thigh or the top of your right shin. You might point and flex the right toes. You might crack the right toes, roll the ankle. Maybe placing your left elbow at your left thigh so you can get a deeper sense of stretch as you firm up your thigh against your left hand, your left elbow, and you press your left elbow into your thigh. Take 2 rounds of breath here. Last round. And we'll slowly release the clasp and turn this into a twist, allowing the feet to fall over towards the right, arms out into a T shape, or you can cactus the arms or leave the hands on the body, especially if you're looking to ground, to root in. Maybe closing the eyes down to soften in even further. And take one more round of slow, deep breath here. When you're ready, we'll unwind, bringing the feet down to the mat. Press down into the soles of your feet. Reset your low back to neutral. And we'll draw the knees in towards the chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Maybe draw your forehead towards your knees before splaying out for our final pose of our post-run yoga sesh, Shavasana. And you can take up as much space as you'd like here. Arms and legs, however far apart you'd like. And we'll just rest here for a few minutes, truly giving yourself the permission to find stillness. You've done so much work today and every day that it's so important to give your body the opportunity to rest. So allow your breath to come to a normal pace and quality. Soften through the muscles of your face, your shoulders, your hips. Scan the body for any last bits of work and release. Close the eyes down and know that there is nowhere else you need to be and nothing else you need to be doing but resting and breathing here on your mat. Good. Slowly start to deepen your breath, bringing yourself back to this space, back to your mat. If staying in stillness serves you, stay. Otherwise, you can start to take gentle movements to wake your body up, wiggling fingers and toes, rolling ankles and wrists, moving the head from side to side. If you feel called to, you can reach your arms back behind you, point your toes towards the top edge of your mat for a nice long stretch along both sides of the body. And then we'll draw the knees in towards the chest, giving yourself a squeeze, and before slowly making your way over onto one side and pausing. Noticing how you feel now as compared to the start of our time together. And when you're ready, we'll slowly press ourselves up to a comfortable seated position with the eyes closed or the gaze downward to keep the focus inward. On an inhale, roll your shoulders up towards your ears. Exhale, soften them down by your sides. Lengthen up through your spine and gather your hands together in front of your heart center. Bow your head towards your hands, thanking yourself for taking the time to move on your mat. Thanking your body for moving through this flow and through your walk or your run if you did that beforehand. And thanking your breath for being the vehicle through which you experienced life. The light in me honors and bows to the light in each one of you. Thank you so much for joining me in this practice today. I hope that you feel a little cooler and more stretched out after going on your walk or your run. Let me know how this practice went for you by giving me a thumbs up or leaving a comment in the comment section below. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't already so you can get all the latest videos from me. Thank you again and take care.